Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Hope you're off to an awesome start for your week so far. We are going to be jumping into an early interview this morning, and huge shout out to one of our viewers from yesterday who actually sent in a job posting today for a paid media coordinator position. I'm going to show you what that looks like here in just a second so we can all take a look at the posting together and start getting prepared for it. All right. So, this position is at a company called Major Tom. Very cool name. And let's take a look at the posting here. Second. All right. So we can all now, since this is a specific request here, let's take a little bit of time to look at the job posting before we jump into the actual interview. And bear with my sniffling here, everyone. I think I might be allergic to something in the air this time of year. So I'm going to do my best to get through this without sniffling too much here. All right. Major Tom is doing some digital marketing. They are looking for someone for this media coordinator position, of course. All right, the must-haves: 1 to 2 years working in a paid search, paid social display marketing capacity. All right, I know this prevents a lot of people from applying to a job like this if you don't have the years of work experience. Now, in a couple of my other live streams, I've been talking about how that top bullet point is maybe the most important. I'm going to break that rule a little bit here, and it's definitely not a rule. It's just a cool way of thinking about a list. Whatever's at the top is probably what was top of mind. But I've heard from countless hiring managers over the years. I run these live streams with guest experts as well, who are usually hiring managers from, some of the big five banks or Fortune 500 companies around the GTA. And many of them say that this shouldn't stop you from applying for the position. So if you don't have 1 to 2 years of work experience, but you have all these other things, they're still interested in meeting you. So um, put your resume out there, apply for the position. If they invite you to an interview, that is your green light and indication that it's probably still you probably still have a chance at getting the job because they're going to look at your resume and base that interview invitation decision on that. So don't hold yourself back. Put your resume out there, even if you don't have every single thing on this list. You never know. Some of them are also willing to train you. So if they meet someone with the right personality and the right passion, they're going to be interested in training you for the position. All right, let's jump into the actual mock interview itself now. As always, what we're going to do is we are going to copy the job title. We're going to put that in, and we're going to copy the job details, and we're going to put that in. All right, I'm going to switch my screen share here so you can hear the simulation. All right. Sorry, folks. Whatever is in the air here is definitely giving me a bit of a hard time, but I'm going to soldier through this interview for our job seekers out there interested in seeing what this is going to be like. And hey, you might be a little sick on the day of the interview, but if it's your big chance, you got to take it. I'm going to cut down a couple of these questions again, like I did yesterday, just to make this a little bit of a more condensed learning experience. All right, let's jump into it. Wish me luck.
Hello. Good to see you. I'm John, the hiring manager for the paid media coordinator position at Major Tom. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well today, John. I'm actually just feeling a little under the weather, so I apologize if you hear any crackling on the microphone. But I'm really excited for this opportunity. I've done a little bit of research on Major Tom. I think it sounds like a great company, and yeah, thank you for having me here today. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you're not feeling well. Don't worry about the crackling. It happens to the best of us. I'm glad you're excited about the opportunity. And thanks for asking. I'm doing pretty good. Just enjoying the day. So, let's dive into the interview. Shall we?
Now, if you're tuning into the live stream for the first time and you have questions as I go through the interview, send them in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. If you're someone in this position currently and you have advice on how to answer one of these questions, post that as well so that any job seekers who are interested in applying for this position can use that advice. That would be awesome if you could contribute to this. But don't hold back your questions. Send them in the chat. I can see your comments here. And so if I see a question come up, I will take some time to pause the simulation like you see now, and we can talk through it. That sounds great, John. Looking forward to answering your questions today.
Great. Let's kick things off. Tell me about a time when you had to manage multiple paid media campaigns simultaneously. How did you prioritize your tasks?
Well, what I always like to do when I join a new team, John, is get to know everyone and their priorities. I know I'll have my priorities on the job, but I think it's important to know, who is depending on me and the work I do to get their work done. So, in a previous role, when I had to handle multiple projects at the same time, I talked to everyone who is dependent on me for content and work and tried to get a sense of who had the most pressing timeline. And I worked backwards from there to prioritize my tasks so that no one was held up by the work I had to do. And that's what I would do in this role as well. I would get to know my team and figure out whose priorities I need to attend to first.
That's a great approach. Getting to know the team and their priorities can definitely help with managing multiple projects effectively. So, let's talk about your experience with retargeting and custom audience building. Can you share a specific example of how you've used these strategies to optimize a campaign?
All right. Now I'm going to pause here for a second because I am not familiar with that concept. And that's because, as usual, I am not qualified for this position. But I am always happy to jump into the interview so that those of you who are interested can see what these questions might be like. Now, that being said, maybe I do put my foot forward and try and get this job in real life, and I come across a question that I wasn't prepared for and that I don't know how to answer. In a scenario like this, to buy yourself a little time, one little trick you can use is to just ask them to rephrase the question. Gives you a little bit of time to think. You don't want to do that too often or anything. But again, I've heard that tip time and time again. It's just a way to give yourself a second to think. And if you haven't done it before, you can somewhat still answer this question by talking about what you would do in the future based on any other experiences you've had. So, in that way, you don't leave any questions on the table, so to speak. You can still try to answer them. So, I'm going to try both those things now. Sorry, John, I didn't quite understand the question. Would you mind just rephrasing that for me?
No problem at all. Let me rephrase that for you. Can you share a specific example of how you've used retargeting and building custom audiences to make a campaign more effective?
Well, I have done a lot of back end research on how to target ads and break our customers into segments in previous roles. So, what I would do in this position, if I was joining your team, is again, I would get to know our target audience, our different product and service lines, make sure I understand which product and service is intended for which audience. And then I would do a little bit of research on each one of those market segments and try to get to know um, their buying habits and their interests because I may choose to run a campaign on a specific platform based on where that demographic does most of their research for new products and services. So I would need to get to know the our team as well as our customers, and that's how I would approach the retargeting and customer segmentation.
That's great to hear. Understanding our target audience and their buying habits is key to running successful campaigns. Now, let's talk about your motivation. What excites you about working in the digital marketing industry?
Well, one thing I really like is how creative you can be. I am actually a huge fan of creative commercials, and I kind of have a running list in my head of commercials and advertising campaigns that I've thought really stood out because they add a lot of humor and excitement to their product, and don't try to um, scare you into needing something, which I sometimes feel like marketing campaigns can do. So one that comes to mind is for a cereal called Shreddies. It's a square shaped cereal, and they had a commercial, um, a couple of years ago where there's a mistake in their factory, and suddenly the Shreddies are now coming out like diamonds. Essentially, they've just rotated the piece of cereal about 45 degrees so it looks like a diamond. And there's all this talk about how much trouble this is going to cause them, and then in the commercial, a marketing manager kind of steps forward and says, we're just going to have to sell these as diamond shreddies now. And it's a huge success. And so it's kind of meta in that sense, but also I thought very uh, funny. It's the same product. They're just putting a little bit of a different spin on it. And being part of creating advertising campaigns like that is something I'm really excited about.
That's a really cool example. The diamond shaped shreddies. It's great to see how creativity can make a big impact in advertising. Now, let's talk about cultural fit. How do you approach collaboration and working in a team environment?
All right, so let's just pause and take a second here to think about how this has gone so far. If you have questions, post them in the comments. I'm particularly happy with that answer because it's a motivation based question, and so that's a real example for me. I truly love that commercial, and I think if you can draw on a real life experience, once you kind of know the questions they're going to ask you, you can start to pick things that actually get you excited. And when you have a chance to talk about those things in the interview, I think you naturally feel a little more relaxed. So now that you know that might be a question, take some time to think about the things that do motivate you to want this job. Apart from getting paid, of course, that one's kind of a given. And every so often I'll hear someone say that, which is totally honest, but maybe not the most tactful answer in an interview setting. So try to think of those things that have inspired you and that make you want to work in the field. All right. Well, I think collaboration is critical in any role, John. And I've kind of mentioned that throughout the interview today in different ways. I hope that's coming across because I think it's super important to get to know your team in the workplace, of course, what they're responsible for, but also if you have a chance to just get to know them on a bit of a personal level, to the degree that they feel comfortable in the workplace. I think it just helps you understand how they do things and creates an even more, enjoyable workplace. So that's how I approach collaboration. I like to get to know everyone. Find out, is there a restaurant around the office they like to eat at? How long have they been here? What are they excited about that we're working on? And I think that makes it a lot easier to get things done when it can get stressful because now you're not just colleagues. You have a bit of a friendship as well, if possible.
Absolutely. Getting to know your team on a personal level can definitely make collaboration more enjoyable and effective. Now, let's talk about the technical side. Can you share a specific example of a campaign you've managed where you had to optimize the performance?
If I had to optimize the performance of a campaign in the future, what I would do is use the native, analysis of each platform, and that's actually what I have done in the past as well. So, um, in previous roles, what I will do is I will pay close attention to all the data analytics provided by each platform natively, Because there are aggregator tools out there that I've tried to use that miss capturing some important information. And once I know things like, what time of day did we get the most engagement in what we're doing? What piece of content generated the most engagement? Then I can alter the campaign accordingly. And again, based on where we were doing that, the adjustments we make for, a platform like LinkedIn might be different than the strategy we use on Instagram. So I think it's really important to use the built-in data analytics tools for each platform to make some informed decisions. And that's what I would do in this role as well.
That's great. Using the native analytics tools of each platform can definitely provide valuable insights for optimization. Now, let's move on to a situational question. How would you handle a situation where a client is not satisfied with the performance of a paid media campaign?
Again, I would want to talk to our team, make sure that I understand how we're supposed to handle situations like that. If it's up to me, and we have the resources to support that customer, I would like to run the campaign for them again, and make sure that they're satisfied. I think building a long-term relationship with our customers is extremely important. So, um, even if we're not to blame, if we can help make our customers happy, I think to a certain extent, that's something we should strive to do. If it continued, if they ended up being difficult to work with and caused our team a lot of additional stress and work that I didn't, think was entirely fair, then at some point, we may have to say, maybe we're not the company for you. But up until that point, I would do everything I can to support that customer and make them happy.
Absolutely, customer satisfaction is important for building long term relationships. Now, before we wrap up, do you have any questions for me about the role or the company?
All right. If you're tuned in and you have questions for John, let me know in the chat. I'm going to wait a couple seconds here to see if anyone wants to ask a specific question about what this job might be like. So give me a couple seconds there to think about it. Oh, sorry, everyone. All right, I'm going to go ahead and ask him a question. Yeah, I'm just wondering, John, do you have a favorite commercial or marketing campaign in mind?
Oh, that's a fun question. One of my favorite marketing campaigns is the Old Spice The Man Your Man Could Smell Like commercials. They're just so quirky and memorable. Do you have a favorite?
I really like that one too. That's a hilarious commercial, and mine is definitely the Diamond Shreddies commercial.
Oh, the Diamond Shreddies commercial. That's a classic. It's amazing how a little twist can make a big impact. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Do you have any other questions for me?
That's all. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. It was great talking to you. We'll be in touch soon with the next steps. Have a fantastic day.
You too. Okay, everyone, we made it to the end. Uh, a great interview. I had a good time. I definitely am not feeling the best, but let's see if it paid off. All right, we got the job. So thank you for tuning in to be part of this. Definitely some things I could work on here. A very cool sounding job, one I am not qualified for. Um, but of course, just drawing on my experience, was able to get through the first round of interviews here. So I encourage you, apply for these positions. Send me a message if you have any questions. Send me your job postings like this viewer did, and we'll use it to go through an actual simulation. But for now, everyone, I am going to go take some cold medicine. So good luck, anyone who has an upcoming interview, and have an awesome week.